to CSE Guru. In this session, we will discuss how to write a C program to add two numbers. So the first line in C program is we need to add a header file. Standard header file is hash include stdio.h. std standard and I represents input, O represents output. stdio, that is standard input output functions. So this header file, what is the purpose we are adding in the sense? What are all the input and output statements we are using in C program that should be supported by C library. So for that, we have to include this header file stdio.h. Then immediately after the header file section, if you are using any global variables, that is, if you are using a function in your program in the sense, we have to use a common variables for the main function as well as the user-defined function. In that case, if you want to use any global variables in the sense, that should be declared in this global declaration section. Here, our aim is to add two numbers only. Okay, simply we are going to implement the code within the main function only. So, we can include only main function here. This open curly brace is the start of the main function and closed curly brace represents the end of the main function. And within this main function, the first line is declaration. That is the local declaration. Whatever the variables we want to use within this main function, that we have to declare here in the first line within main function. So here, for example, I am going to use integer variable and I will use two variables, that is for adding two numbers. So first number I will get and store with the variable a, and the second number I will get and store with the variable b. Okay, after adding these two numbers, that is a plus b, addition result we will get it. That result we have to store with another variable. So we will use another variable c. Okay, so a is the variable to store the first value and b is the variable to store the second value, and we have to add a and b values and we will get a new value. That is nothing but the sum value, and the sum we need to store with another variable. Any variable name you can able to use. So for example, instead of c, you can use sum itself. Okay, now we have declared the local variables. Then get the input for the variables a and b. Simply type a message, enter the values of a and b. Okay, so this is simply a message. Okay, so this message will be displayed in the output screen. So the user come to know we have to enter two values. Okay, then using a scanf statement, scanf. And since this a and b is of integer data type, we have to use the format specifiers %d. So first %d is to get the first value and that will be stored with the variable a. And the second %d is to get and store the second value with the variable b. Okay. So for that purpose, we have used two %d. Suppose if it is a floating point variable, here we have to use %f. Okay, and here we need to get and store the value with a, and that value will be stored in the memory location. In the computer, some memory location, randomly it will store the values wherever memory is free. So for that purpose, to represent the address, we have to use ampersand symbol, ampersand a and ampersand b. So this ampersand represent, we will get the value of a and store the value within the memory location. Okay, that address or memory location represents this ampersand symbol. Okay, then semicolon. Keep in mind, every statement in C program has to end with a semicolon. Okay, now we got two values. Next, what you have to do? Add those two values and store with the variable sum. So sum is equal to a plus b. Okay, so add these two values and the result will be stored with the left side variable. This equal sign represents the assignment operator. In the right hand side, any expression may be present. That expression should be evaluated and we will get a final single value, and that value will be stored with the variable sum. Okay, now we have added two values. Next, what we have to do? print the result in the output screen. So anything, if you want to print it in the output screen, in the sense any message or anything, if you want to print it in the sense, we have to use printf statement. How we have to display in the sense, sum is equal to, and what is the format specifier for sum? It is a integer data type. See here, we have declared it as a integer data type only. So the format specifier we have to use percentage d here. So sum is equal to percentage d, and within the double quote, whatever you are specifying, that will be displayed in the output screen. So sum is equal to, this percentage d is a format specifier, and this percentage d, what is the result it has to display? That we have to give here. So what is the result it has to display? The value stored with the variable sum, it has to display here. Okay. This is simply a message. Sum is equal to is simply a message that will be displayed in the output screen as it is. And instead of this percentage d, this is a format specifier, it will take the sum value. Okay. So this is the format of printf statement to print the output in the output screen. And here semicolon. Now use return statement, a simple return statement. Since we have used the main function as void, the main function is not going to return any value to any other function. So we have used simply a return statement, and this return statement represents the complete program execution is over, and it has to return the control to the operating system. That is the meaning. Now we have typed the program and execute the program now. See here, enter the values of A and B. So now we have to enter A and B value. So A value I am entering it as 20 and B value I am entering it as 13. Okay. And if you are giving a enter in the sense, it will display sum is equal to 33. 20 plus 13, we will get it as 33. So we got the sum. Okay. Suppose if you have given A value was 16 and B value was 10. In the sense, what is the result we will get? 26. Okay. So here if you are considering in the sense, we have used three variables A, B and sum. A variable is used to store the first value, B variable is used to store the second value, and we have used the sum variable also. And here we have used three integer variables. Suppose if you want to use a floating point variable in the sense, simply declare the data type as float. Okay, and here instead of percentage d, we have to use percentage f. So this percentage f is a format specifier used to accept and store the floating point values. Okay, here also percentage f, it has to display the floating point value. If you are executing this program, it will display enter the values of A and B. Now you have to enter floating point values for A and B since we have declared the data type as float. So 23.4 for A and 12.6 for B. And if you are checking here, sum is equal to 36 and after the decimal point, 6 zeros it will display. That is, by default, after the decimal point, the floating point variable will store the values with 6 memory locations. If a value is not there in the sense, by default, it will store 6 zeros. Okay. So this is nothing but floating point data type. And here in the output screen, enter the values of A and B. Suppose, although it is a floating point data type, I am entering value 12. Okay. And 15. A value was 12 and B value was 15. Floating point data type in the sense, it is a real values, that is 12.5, 13.6. So floating point data type is nothing but the number with the decimal values. But instead of that, I am giving an integer value only. It will accept. But it will accept and it will store in the memory location. How it will store it in the sense, it will store it as a floating point value, that is 12.000 likewise. 0.000. Likewise, it will store it in the memory location. Now, if you are asking to print the output in the sense, see here, 12 plus 15 is 27, and since it is a floating point data type, it is displaying after the decimal point 6 digits. By default, it will display. Okay, so this is a simple C program to add two numbers. Thank you for watching this video.